G'day. Having done a couple of days on the Paris Metro, I think there's a few things that we can now summarise about our delightful experience. What would you say?
Without a doubt. The Paris locals have been absolutely fantastic. The Metro themselves, despite showing that they have facilities for disabled people, the only facilities that the Paris Metro actually has are the other people that are using the Metro. They have rushed to our assistance if we've come to any sort of issue at all. They've helped lift the wheelchair over gates, through gates. They've helped us on escalators.
They even offered to lift me over a gate yesterday. Yes, so they say that they're disabled friendly, but they really aren't in the sort of strictest sense of the word. If they've got a lift, it's probably in a really stupid place and you probably won't be able to find it, and you'll have to go 500 miles further. If you find it, it probably is broken. And then you've got escalators and stairs. You can't always get to the platforms on escalators. You sometimes have to do stairs. And so we've worked out how to do and how not to do escalators, having gone over backwards on my wheelchair. I haven't face planted, thankfully, but I have gone over backwards on my wheelchair on an escalator. So if you have to do an escalator in a wheelchair, here's what we've discovered. Going up, what way did we do it? You were behind me.
I was behind you.
Going up, an escalator, I put the wheelchair onto the escalator. Once it was on, lock the wheels, and I held on to the handrails, and I had Peter behind me for safety. And then before I got to the top, you have to take the wheels off lock, otherwise the escalator running in underneath the mechanism turns you over backwards. And then off I went. If we go down the escalator, now I thought, logically speaking, it would be the same in reverse. However, yesterday we did this and I didn't put the wheels into lock, and when I got to the bottom of the escalator,
the wheelchair tipped.
The wheels kept on rolling with the escalator going in underground, and it tipped me over backwards onto the floor. And then we struggled to get me out of that position because the wheels were rolling against the escalator and we couldn't get the wheelchair upright.
But a multitude of people came to our assistance.
Absolutely they did, yeah, to get me up off the floor. Without any questions asked.
And the same with getting into the carriages on the trains.
Yep, that is true, yeah. So sometimes the trains have got signs saying which doors are wheelchair accessible, and I think that means they're slightly wider, or actually more likely there's a space inside that doorway for a wheelchair to go. But regardless of that, as soon as they see someone sitting on the other side, when the train rocks up and the doors open, everybody leaps out of the way, jumps out, asks if you need help. It's just the friendliness of the French has really bowled us over. And it's been unrelenting. There hasn't been a case when that's not been the case. And some trains have got a huge step, even though they're accessible. And so I've had to get out, and we've had to lift the wheelchair into the train and out of the train and that sort of thing. Yesterday, my favourite yesterday, we went into a station and I asked them if they could open the door to the gates to let me in, and they didn't have gates that they could open. Then he went around, the staff member went around the other side and pushed open a barrier, and the wheelchair wouldn't quite fit. Now, we've had this problem before, and we had to take a wheel off. And we've done this a few times, and people just laugh when they see it. Can we help? No, we've done this before. On this occasion, this guy came along.
2 guys.
Oh, was there 2?
Yeah.
Plus this guy off the station, and they were not listening to what we had to say. It's fine, we'll just take the wheel off. Nope, they were going to help. They were going to help, come what may. And so one of them climbed onto the barriers,
lifted the wheelchair,
and above the barriers there is the top of the gates, and the wheelchair wouldn't fit between the barriers and the top of the gate. So
they lifted it over the top of the gate.
So there's guy standing on barrier on one side, guy standing on barrier on the other side. The wheelchair went over the top. And they wanted to know if I wanted to go as well. No, you're fine.
And these guys did not know each other beforehand.
No,
they just were 2 random people that came and helped.
Yeah. And then did I want help down the stairs on the other side? What they asked. So, yes. Yeah, if you're expecting it to be accessible, it's not. But the people of Paris make it accessible and make it a friendly experience for disabled people, without a doubt. Today we visited the Eiffel Tower. I had no idea how this was going to go. I hadn't bought a ticket in advance. I expected massive, massive, massive long queues.
And there were.
In several places. Took us a while to work out what was happening, and there were queues in different places. There was queues if you wanted to go up to level 2 on the elevators. There was queues if you wanted to go up to level 2 on the stairs. Then there was 2 other queues to buy the tickets for the stairs and queues to buy the tickets for the elevators. And we were in the middle looking confused. And saw a couple of other people in wheelchairs head off in a specific direction. So Peter goes, right, I'm going to go and talk to this guy. What did he say to you?
Well, he took one look at your wheelchair and basically said, please come this way. And we were treated like royalty. We had a special access dispensation granted to us. They couldn't be more helpful. They got us our tickets.
Straight away, without having to queue anywhere.
We went to the front of the elevator queue and we were able to get up in the elevator. And again,
minimal waiting.
The local people of Paris were really helpful in letting us in the queues and things too.
Yeah, and into the elevator, you know, jumping out of the way and moving out of the way of the window and things like that. When we were coming back down, we had the same experience. So we were looking for somewhere to join a queue to come back down, and the same thing from level 2 coming down was queues here and queues there and queues all over the place. And I was actually standing up. And we were in this queue, and I was standing up because I had been sitting down for a long time and my knees needed a rest. And a person came along, tapped you on the shoulder and said, oh, come with me.
Probably because they thought I thought that they thought we were faking the wheelchair use because you were standing up. But in actual fact, she took us to the front of a queue of a different elevator. And allowed us to get into the elevator ahead of anyone else.
That's right.
To go back down.
So they opened the door, let us in, and then opened the door on the other side and let everyone else in. So I asked the guy that was operating the elevator which window was best, and he said this one. So I parked myself there. And then the people coming in from the other side, there was a girl and her parents, and she was in a wheelchair.
They're from Australia.
And they were like, oh, no, it's all right, it's right. I said, I've been told this is a good window. You need to come and sit here. And everyone in the elevator moved out of the way.
To let this girl in her wheelchair. Poor wee thing, I think she had cancer. And she's there with her mum and her dad and her sister. And
they said the same thing, that they'd had just tip-top experience from a wheelchair accessibility point of view at the Eiffel Tower. So there's nothing I can criticise there at all. It was just incredible. We found Eat Street, one of the many, and decided to have dinner. One thing you're going to have to be aware of if you're in Paris in a wheelchair is cobbled streets. And another thing you're going to have to be aware of if you're in a wheelchair in Paris is toilet accessibility. I'm sorry, if you are a complete spinal cord injury, you're really going to struggle, because every bar and cafe we went into, the toilets were downstairs in the cellar.
And isn't it interesting, because I read somewhere in a biography about Jim Morrison from the Doors that they found him dead in a downstairs toilet below a bar in Paris, where obviously he'd OD'd and he just went down there, fell asleep and died in a toilet in Paris. Yeah, amazing.
So yes, we can't fault the French in the way that they have made the places accessible for us today. Only thing we can fault is the buildings being so old, meaning the toilets are in the cellar and you can't get to them unless you can stand up and walk. However, we had a fabulous day. Happy birthday, Peter.
Thank you, Mel.